Whatever happened to the breakfasts that used to wake up the whole block with their smell? The ones your grandma made before the sun came up? No recipe, just rhythm and soul. Can you still taste those fried grits cakes? Or remember the sound of hog maw sizzling in the pan? These were not just meals. They were morning rituals stitched into the fabric of African-American kitchens across the South. Today, we are digging deep into 10 breakfast dishes that nobody makes anymore, but everybody should remember. Hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a taste of history, and drop a comment if one of these dishes brings back a memory. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're just getting started. Number 1, fried grits cakes. Ever wonder what happened to the breakfast that came straight from the skillet? No shortcuts, no frills, just pure soul. Fried grits cakes were one of those dishes that made you feel like you were eating history. Not the kind of grits you stir and forget. I'm talking about leftover grits, cooled overnight, sliced thick, and fried golden in a cast iron pan till the edges got crispy and the middle stayed soft. This was the kind of breakfast that showed up when Grandma didn't waste a thing. She'd wake up early, slice those grits like she was cutting cornbread, drop 'em in hot grease, and let the smell do the talking. You could hear that sizzle from the next room, and you knew breakfast was about to hit different. Some folks ate 'em plain, some added cheese or a little bacon grease, and if you were lucky, you got a drizzle of syrup or a fried egg on top. Elders remember sitting at the table, fork in hand, steam rising off the plate, and feeling like royalty, even if the pantry was bare. Fried grits cakes weren't just food. They were proof that flavor didn't come from money. It came from memory. And today, most folks don't even know they existed. So if this dish sparks something in you, a smell, a story, a Sunday morning, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a taste of the past, and drop a comment with your own grit story. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got 9 more forgotten breakfasts to bring back to life. Number 2, hog maw and potatoes. Now here's a dish that'll make you ask, how did we forget this? Hog maw and potatoes wasn't just breakfast. It was a whole experience. Hog maw, or pig stomach, might sound wild today, but back then, it was a delicacy in black kitchens, cleaned with care, seasoned with pride, and slow-cooked till tender. Paired with soft, buttery potatoes that soaked up all that flavor, this dish was bold, hearty, and full of soul. Elders remember waking up to the smell of it simmering low, the kind of smell that wrapped around the house like a warm blanket. It was the kind of breakfast that took time, no shortcuts, no microwave, just patience and love. Some folks stuffed the hog maw with sausage and onions, others sliced it thin and fried it up with potatoes and bacon grease. Either way, it was a plate that told a story of survival, of creativity, of making the most out of what you had. And let's be real, this dish wasn't for the faint of heart. It was for folks who knew flavor, who respected the craft, and who understood that every part of the animal had a purpose. Number 3, molasses-dipped apples. Now tell me this, when was the last time you saw a kid bite into an apple dipped in molasses? Not caramel, not chocolate. I'm talking thick, dark, sticky molasses straight from the jar. This was the kind of treat that didn't come in a wrapper or cost a dime. It came from the pantry, from the earth, from a time when sweet meant simple. Molasses-dipped apples were a breakfast snack, a lunchbox surprise, or just something to hold you over till supper. Elders remember picking apples fresh off the tree or grabbing one from the barrel at the corner store, then dunking it in molasses so thick it moved like slow honey. That first bite? Tart, sweet, earthy, a flavor that hit you deep and stayed with you. And if the molasses ran down your chin, that just meant you were doing it right. This was a dish that didn't need a stove or a recipe, just a memory and a mason jar. It was the kind of breakfast that reminded you how to slow down, how to savor, how to stretch a little sweetness a long way, and today, most folks don't even know it existed. But ask your grandma, your great-uncle, your neighbor who's been around a while. They'll tell you, this was the good stuff, so if this brings back a taste, a smell, a moment. Number 4, turtle soup. Now here's a dish that'll make folks pause and say, wait, we really used to eat that? Turtle soup was one of those old-school breakfasts that came from deep tradition, back when nothing went to waste and everything had a purpose. It wasn't just about the turtle. It was about the slow simmer, the bold seasoning, and the kind of care that turned wild game into comfort food. Elders remember catching turtles near the creek, cleaning them with patience and cooking them low and slow with onions, peppers, and a splash of vinegar or hot sauce. The broth was rich, earthy, and full of flavor, the kind that warmed you from the inside out. And don't get it twisted, this wasn't some novelty dish. It was a regular part of rural black kitchens, especially in the South, where folks knew how to stretch what nature gave them. Turtle soup was served with cornbread or rice, and if you were lucky, you got a piece of tender meat that melted in your mouth. It was a dish that told stories of fishing trips, family gatherings, and the kind of cooking that came from instinct, not instructions. Today, most folks wouldn't even know where to start, but back then, it was just breakfast. Number 5, turnip green juice with cornbread. Now this one right here, it's straight up Southern soul in a cup and a slice. Turnip green juice with cornbread wasn't just breakfast, it was a ritual. You ever hear your elders talk about pot liquor? That's the rich, vitamin-packed broth left behind after simmering greens low and slow with smoked meat, onions, and love. And instead of tossing it, folks drank it, warm, salty, earthy, sometimes with a splash of vinegar or hot sauce. But the real magic? Dipping a chunk of cornbread right into that juice, letting it soak up all that flavor like a sponge. Elders remember sitting at the table, bowl in hand, cornbread crumbling in, and feeling like they were eating gold. This wasn't just about nutrition, though it was packed with it. It was about respecting the whole process. You didn't waste nothing. You honored the greens, the broth, the hands that stirred the pot. And that cornbread, it was never sweet. It was gritty, golden, and baked in a skillet with a crust that could make you cry. Today, folks chase smoothies and protein shakes, but back then, turnip green juice was the original power breakfast. Number 6, Chitlin Scramble. Now this one right here, it's not for the faint of heart, but if you know, you know. Chitlin Scramble was the kind of breakfast that made you respect the kitchen. Chitlins, or pig intestines, had to be cleaned with care, boiled slow, and seasoned like your life depended on it. But once they were tender and ready, folks would chop them up and toss them in a skillet with scrambled eggs, onions, peppers, maybe a little garlic if you were feeling fancy. The result? A bold, savory, unforgettable plate that hit different. Elders remember the whole process, the smell, the patience, the pride. It wasn't just about making breakfast. It was about honoring tradition. Chitlins were a survival food passed down from generations who knew how to turn what others threw away into something sacred. And when you scrambled them with eggs, that was soul food innovation. Some folks added hot sauce, others served it with grits or cornbread on the side. But no matter how you dressed it up, Chitlin Scramble was a dish that told the truth about struggle, creativity, and flavor that came from the heart. Today, most folks won't touch it, but back then, it was a badge of honor. Number 7, boiled peanuts and cornbread. Now this one right here, it's country comfort at its finest. Boiled peanuts and cornbread might sound like a snack to some, but for our elders, it was a full-on breakfast. Warm, salty, and stick-to-your-ribs satisfying. You ever had peanuts boiled till they're soft like beans, seasoned with salt, garlic, maybe a little cayenne if Grandma was feeling bold? That pot would sit on the stove all night, slow simmering till the shells softened and the flavor soaked deep. And when morning came, you'd scoop out a bowl, crack 'em open, and pair 'em with a thick slice of skillet cornbread, the kind with a golden crust and a crumb that held together like pride. Elders remember sitting on the porch, shelling peanuts with one hand and holding cornbread with the other, talking about life, laughing about nothing, and feeling full in every way. This wasn't just food, it was fellowship. It was the kind of breakfast that didn't need eggs or bacon, just a pot, a pan, and a whole lot of love. And today, most folks don't even know boiled peanuts can be breakfast. But ask your granddaddy, your great aunt, or that neighbor who's been around, they'll tell you, this was the good stuff. Number 8, dandelion green hash. Now here's a breakfast that'll make you stop and say, we really used to eat that? Dandelion green hash was one of those dishes born from deep roots, literally. Back in the day, when money was tight and grocery stores weren't always close, folks turned to the land. Dandelion greens, wild and bitter, were picked fresh from the yard or roadside, cleaned with care, and cooked down with onions, garlic, and a little fat back or smoked meat, if you had it. Then came the hash, chopped potatoes, maybe a few scraps of meat, all fried up in a skillet till crispy and golden. Mix it all together, and you had a breakfast that was bold, earthy, and full of grit, the kind of flavor that didn't ask for permission. Elders remember waking up to the smell of greens cooking low, the sound of potatoes popping in grease, and the taste of something that felt like strength. This wasn't just food, it was medicine, it was memory, it was making do with what the earth gave you. And today, most folks walk right past dandelions without even knowing they fed generations. But ask your grandma, your great uncle, or that neighbor who still keeps a garden. They'll tell you, this was survival food turned soul food. Number 9, cabbage and ham hock stew. Now this one, it was the kind of breakfast that made you feel hugged from the inside out. Cabbage and ham hock stew wasn't just a dish, it was a warm, smoky, savory bowl of love. You ever wake up to the smell of cabbage simmering low with smoked ham hocks, onions, garlic, and a splash of vinegar? That aroma filled the whole house, crept into your clothes, and let you know breakfast was going to be real. Elders remember dropping those ham hocks in the pot early, letting them boil till the meat fell off the bone, then adding chopped cabbage that soaked up every ounce of flavor. It was tender, salty, and rich, the kind of stew that didn't need sides, but always came with cornbread just the same. And if you were lucky, you got a piece of ham hock with a little skin still on it, chewy, smoky, unforgettable. This was a dish that came from hard times and made good times better. It was about stretching what you had, feeding a crowd, and serving up comfort with every spoonful. Today, folks might turn their nose up at cabbage for breakfast. But back then, it was a staple, a tradition, a memory. So if this dish brings back a moment, maybe of your grandma's big pot on the stove or a cold morning warmed by stew and stories, hit that like button. Share it with someone who knows what real flavor tastes like, and drop a comment if cabbage and ham hocks ever made it to your table. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got one more forgotten breakfast to bring back to life. Number 10, pumpkin cornbread pancakes. Now this one, it's the kind of breakfast that made you feel like fall had pulled up a chair at the table. Pumpkin cornbread pancakes were soft, golden, and kissed with spice. The perfect mashup of two southern staples. You ever taste a pancake that had the heart of cornbread and the soul of sweet pumpkin? That's what this was. Elders remember mixing cornmeal with mashed pumpkin, cinnamon, nutmeg, and just enough sugar to make it sweet, but not too sweet. The batter was thick, the skillet was hot, and the smell, man, it filled the house like a warm hug. These pancakes had texture, a little grit from the cornmeal, a little fluff from the pumpkin, and a whole lot of flavor from the memories baked in. Served with butter, syrup, or even a dollop of apple butter, if you were lucky, they were the kind of breakfast that made you slow down and savor. This wasn't just food, it was a seasonal ritual, a way to welcome the harvest and honor the hands that made it. And today, most folks don't even know pumpkin and cornbread ever danced together. But ask your grandma, your great uncle, or that neighbor who still cooks from scratch. They'll tell you. These pancakes were the truth. So now you've seen it. 10 breakfasts that carried more than a flavor. They carried history. These weren't just meals to start the day. They were stories told in cast iron, passed down in whispers, and served with pride. From fried grits cakes to pumpkin cornbread pancakes, every dish was a reminder that our elders knew how to turn scraps into soul, struggle into strength, and food into memory. These breakfasts fed generations, built communities, and gave comfort when comfort was hard to come by. And today, they deserve to be remembered, revived, and respected. If one of these dishes stirred something in you, a smell, a sound, a moment from your childhood, don't let it fade. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs a taste of the past, and drop a comment with your own breakfast memory. Let's keep the stories alive, one plate at a time. And don't forget to subscribe, because this ain't just about food, it's about legacy. And we've got more to uncover, more to honor, and more to serve.